What is a well-paying job that requires minimal schooling or training? Story 1. Picking up dead animals for the highway department. The training is mostly just handing you a shovel and assigning you to a truck. It pays really well, which is nice because you'll want to burn your clothes. Try to get promoted to driver as soon as you can. Story 2. Where I work in a cold storage warehouse requires little to no experience. Around 25 HR, all the overtime you can handle. Some parts of the year when they need extra help, they pay 10 extra an hour, and sometimes 20. So you could be making like 53 HR including overtime. Not bad. It's pretty hard work though. Answer. Yeah, I work in a warehouse here in Australia. We have ambient and a freezer to pick in, picking orders for one of the major grocery stores here. No experience at all is needed. Just need to piss clean and no recent convictions. Starting wage is 33 and then goes up to 42 after a year. It's unionized at the place I work too. Not many people last, as you said it's tough work picking heavy chute all day for 8 hours plus overtime if you want it. I'm actually off on workers' compensation for the second time, but hoping to get back soon. Story 3. Railcar Carman. Just need a driver's license, a high school diploma or equivalent, twice yearly raises and great benefits for a job they do on the job training for, and also send you out to training. Also conductors and engineers, but their schedules are crazier, and even the guys who have 20 years in get-shoot schedules. Answer. I know someone who was a conductor for Norfolk Southern and can confirm. Great pay, but shoot schedule. Might be gone away for a week and have to wait a few days to get back once the shift is done. She did tell me about working the rail yard with a huge remote control that was linked up to an engine to move cars around the yard. Some like this. Story 4. Google has certificate programs that take like 200 or so hours to complete, and by the end you get recommended to top employers for that position. Yeah, you'll probably have to pay if you can't complete it all by the end of the 7-day free trial. But it's only like $39 a month to access everything. They're decent paying tech jobs too. Story 5. Honestly, unarmed, contracted security. For an entry-level job where you mostly just stand there and call the police when needed, here it averages between 15 to 20 an hour, and it seems anyone with a clean criminal record and a negative substances test can land a position. Story 6. Becoming an insurance adjuster. I took a 5-day class, passed a test, total cost a few hundred, found a job and make about $32K starting. And you pretty much learn as you go and switch companies, get promoted every few years. Doesn't take too long to get into the 80K range, and you can become senior manager level after 10 years if you want. Answer. As an adjuster, it can be the most stressful and difficult job for peanuts, or it can be an easiest job for badass pay. I've had both. Still kinda sucks. You can be an office adjuster and make somewhere between 30 to 50K USD, or you can be an independent CAD adjuster and are upwards of 150 to 300K a year. I've worked in an office, basically call center, cubicle farm, for 40K as stressed out as humanly possible. I've also worked years that I would quote-unquote chase storms and work the catastrophe claims afterwards, usually for about 6 weeks at a time. You can work half the year and make 200K. I wouldn't go work storm unless I expected to make 1,000 per day or more. Wasn't worth my time if it was less. The travel can kick your jerk though. Then you have taxes. You're an independent contractor now, so you have to pay all of it. Even the portion an employer generally covers. Better have a good CPA. Story 7. Elephant circumciser. The pay isn't great, but the tips are huge. Edit. Have you ever just tossed a comment into a conversation and moved on without really thinking about it? Then you come back later and it has a bunch of upvotes and awards. Well, this silly dad joke is that one for me. Thanks for the love, everyone. Story 8. Natural gas technician. I was making 40 an hour with unlimited OT. They hired me, and after 1 year of training on the job, I was making 100K a year without trying. Had guys working 60, 70 hours a week making almost 200K a year. Saved a shoot ton of money for 5 years and bought a pizza shop. Make close to same money, but own my own business now. I loved the job and had a ton of fun, but never had any passion for it and dislike being on call constantly. Story 9. I dislike to put it out there, but towboating in the Mississippi River, 42K a year for 6 months. Work all the overtime you can stand. The catch is, it is miserable work. You'll be cold, hot, tired, and well-fed. It's a mostly male-dominated field as the work is very body-intensive. But I've seen 3 females out here in 6 years, so it's not impossible. Story 10. It takes only about 2 years to become a respiratory tech, and they earn 45 to 80K depending on experience and location. It's a solid income, and certainly enough to finance whatever education one might need for achieving more education-intensive goals without going into massive debt. Story 11. HVAC tech. Still need an aptitude for figuring out mechanical problems, and must be okay working in hot, dusty attics and the occasional weekend holiday. If you set up your own residential shop after a couple years and are prompt and good at your job, you could rake in the money. And if you get into commercial, that's where the very big money is. Story 12. I remember reading that in the U.S., X-ray technician has one of the best ratios of education to income. It's a 2-year program offered at most community colleges, and you're pretty much guaranteed a job immediately, making around 80 grand per year. Logistics isn't too bad. As long as you can make yourself presentable and write a clear email, plenty of 3PLs will hire you on as a load planner or sales agent or something. It can be annoying and tedious. Some people you'd work with are vitriolic, but you can start out making 50 or 60 grand with nothing more than a high school diploma. Answer. I remember reading that in the U.S., X-ray technician has one of the best ratios of education to income. It's a 2-year program offered at most community colleges, and you're pretty much guaranteed a job immediately, making around 80 grand per year. A quick Google search debunks this. These numbers are for Denver. Average, 49,042. 75th percentile, 54,406. Top earners, 67,000. So the top earners make almost 20 less than you claim is pretty much guaranteed. You need to edit your post. Story 13. Daughter 1. College. 4-year degree, 250K, 50KY year in her field. Daughter 2. Electrician. Apprentice school 1 night week for 4 years. 7K to be reimbursed upon completion. 2 years in earning. 60K year. About 50 more after journeyman test completed. Worthwhile jobs are neither free or easy. Answer. That's okay. I'm not looking for free nor easy. I'm a hard worker. I enjoy working. I'm just tired of working in my field, and extensive schooling just isn't obtainable in my current situation. I can't afford to work less long enough to go to school, hence the minimal schooling. Ideally, I'd just quit my job and go to school, but that isn't possible at this time. Story 14. Sales, but it do require training, though you just go from this job to that job, and all of a sudden you drive a Tesla and fly around the world, not really working at all. But IDK, I've been bullshitting my whole career. I just fake it, still waiting to make it. Still not enough days left before the next salary hits. Story 15. Personal training. If you look the part and can relate to people, it's super easy. Get a few couples to train together, and it's an easy 100-hour. I've been at it a while, but I'm pulling 160K a year and have made enough to start investing in real estate. Story 16. CNA work. I couldn't hold a job for more than 6 months in my teens and early 20s. Got a housekeeping gig at a local nursing home and was tricked into taking the class. Been doing CNA work for 11 years now. Edit. I make on the higher end, but I make 30-hour base pay, and I'm in a position to negotiate up to 40-hour. Pro tip. If you have numerous nursing homes in your area, switch jobs every year or 2 to get higher pay. I started out making 11-hour and have worked one place 3 times, another twice, and a handful of others, and always got top pay upon hiring. Story 17. Don't know where you are from, but train drivers, locomotive engineers, we ain't engineers though, in Sweden make decent money for a 1-year education with CSN benefits. You gotta live with the weird hours you work, but other than that, it's a swell job. I imagine it ain't much worse elsewhere. Story 18. I just want to say this as a warning. Be wary of all the people advocating for trades. Every time this kind of question pops up, there are people who swear by trades and that trades will make you rich. This isn't true. While there are outliers in trades that make a lot of money, they're just that, outliers. The median wage for a lot of these positions usually isn't any better than, say, a teacher or an accountant. If you don't believe me, do some research. It only takes 5 minutes to see what I mean. While yes, you don't have to go to university, which saves you money in the short term, your body will pay for it after a few years. especially if you're not one to take good care of yourself. At which point, you will start to pay for it in hospital bills of, you live in a country with a healthcare system like America's. Even if you don't have to worry too much about it in medical bills, your body is still falling apart. I come from a family of people who work in trades, and not a single person in my family has ever earned more than the average wage for their trade. And all of the people in my family who have been working in trades for over about 7 years have issues with their bodies, aching joints, constantly tired, injured knees, elbows, backs, and shoulders. My dad is 52, and he can't lift his arms up to shoulder height anymore after 20 years of being in his field. His title is technician, but basically he's the guy that fixes and installs the lines for beer taps and kegs and all that at bars and restaurants. My uncle has been working construction for over 20 years, and he can barely bend over or bend his knees. There is a reason they constantly tell me and cousins to do well in school and go to university. It's so we don't have to work a physically laborious job and grind ourselves into the dust for average pay. I know a plumber who does actually make around 70 to 80K a year in Arizona, but he works hard and long hours. He pretty much doesn't see his family except for a few hours on Sundays. I'm not saying we should look down on trades. I'm just saying we shouldn't be so quick to portray trades as some easy way to a comfortable living. And if, say, more people do start going into trades, the demand for those trades will more or less stay the same, while the amount of positions available will decrease. So it will be even harder to get into that top 25% of earners for those trades. People, do your research. Know what you're getting into. Story 19. RV sales. TBH, or a BDC agent in RV sales. I'm a BDC agent, I get hourly commission. $14 an hour, $25 for every shown app, $25 for every sold appointment. A monthly bonus of sold x sold. So if I had 10 apps sell, I get an additional 100. I usually have between 60 to 100 appointments every month during the busy season, and 40 to 75 in the slow season. We don't cold call. We just follow up with people who inquire. We don't sell anything. We just convince people to come in and look at the camper they want to see. The salesperson handles it from there. RV salespeople make bank though. One sales guy at my dealership sells an average of 14 campers a month, and the range he'll make off those is from $250 to $4K each. Story 20. Pay is a complex formula. Effort required, risk hazard, available positions, labor supply, barriers to hiring such as education required, specialized training required, licensing required, things that make the job undesirable such as mental stress strain, availability of easier alternatives in field, physical hazard, things that limit labor supply, rarity of skillet required, remoteness of location. Story 21. Most delivery services will train you on the job and start around $18 an hour. The trade-off? You basically have to sell your soul to your chosen company, as you'll only have 10 to 12 hours off on any given day and mandatory Saturdays in a lot of situations. Keep in mind, of that 10 to 12 hours, that includes sleeping, getting ready, finding cooking food, eating, and transport. So in reality, you only get about 30 minutes to an hour of free time a day. Story 22. You can make a good living working for the railroad. I would recommend going for passenger rail over freight. Freight employees get furloughed pretty often, depending on the amount of business the company has. Passenger rail is pretty good about it, and there's a pension through railroad retirement if the company is a part of it. Story 23. Union construction trades. Laborers union, carpenters union, electricians union, plumbers union, pipe fitters, sprinkler fitters, etc. Most start at least 20-hour and go up 60-hour and goes into your 401k and pension on day one. Your raises and promotions get determined by how many hours you've worked and training you've done, not whose boss's jerk you've kissed lately. Health insurance is also top-notch, and it's not tied to your company. Can't say enough good things about the construction trades. Story 24. I don't know where you are, but there are a lot of government jobs for which you can apply basically with only your high school degree and make some large figures with low effort. Some countries' laws will grant stability at the job after some time and makes firing you nearly impossible. I know guys who got government-paying jobs making much more than people with college degrees working 30 hours a week. Story 25. Modeling. You don't have to go to any schooling or any real training for it. I mean, a few training sessions with other models to learn how to make love to the camera is helpful, but some people just naturally do this well. Mostly, The major barrier to entry is that you need to be amazingly beautiful and fit. This means perfect genes so that you have amazing proportions and a gorgeous face and clear complexion and great features. Then you need to be really on top of your diet and exercise and skin routines and such. But all of that can be had without any schooling or formal training. If you have the look, then you can sell that. Answer: maybe if you want to be an international cover girl, but there are plenty of modeling gigs that don't require anywhere near that level of work or commitment. My wife used to do runway shows for smaller labels when she was younger. She's tall, pretty, and just naturally rail thin, so it was an easy way to make an extra couple $100 a month. She stopped in her mid-20s mostly because dudes are creepy, not because she couldn't keep up with it. Story 26. You know that wages are set based on availability of labor, right? The reason why most minimal training jobs pay low is because there are a lot of willing laborers to do it. The only ones that pay high are ones nobody really wants to do, like the people who clean up dead bodies at crime scenes, firefighters, military. If the job is easy, chances are you're not going to get paid much for it because it's something anyone can do. Story 27. Short answer: it doesn't exist. Sorry, competition is brutal. Long answer: these easy jobs tend to have or require any of good social connections, willingness to take on massive risks, a gross-out factor, lifelong commitment, social stigma, or being morally gray. Examples: good social connections. You work at your dad's company doing some make-work job, taking on risks. You join some army position where most days things are slow, but you are at extreme risk of passing if and when you are actually called to serve. Gross out. You work as a trash collector. Lifelong commitment. Government sends you to school for free for training, but they expect you to work for them for 5 years or more. Social stigma. You do intimacy work or work in the adult content industry. Morally gray. You deal plant substance or hustle people in cryptocurrency. Story 28. Fire extinguisher technician. Depends on where you live to be lucrative. Bay Area here. Company van that lives at my house. Haven't paid for gas in over 3 years, which is a big deal considering it's nearing $5 a gallon here. Almost at 25 per hour plus 12 commission on anything I do. Paid weekly. Most checks after taxes are at least $850 to $1,100. I mean, my earning potential is only limited by how much work I have for the month. Sure, I can hustle for more business, but I enjoy being home by like 12 p.m. or earlier most days. Lol. Old-timer in the business told me being an extinguisher tech is a license to steal, and it's true. If you're cool with me and respect my time, I won't rip you off. If you're a pain in the jerk account and your pricing isn't already set up for national pricing, your jerk belongs to me. Just had to pass a 100-question test and license to service extinguishers. Prob make about $80K this year. Story 29. Didn't see it yet. But lawn mowing, depending on where you live. Pass out flyers in your downtime. You'll be slow. Your route won't be ideal in the beginning, but eventually you can make serious money. It can fund a life that you can't even imagine. Off-season, hang Christmas lights or do exterior painting. Painting can be cheap to get started with too. Just had multiple painters quote us $8K for just exterior painting. It's definitely a strange path towards becoming a millionaire though. Story 30. The food industry is a decent place to start. People like to say shoot like burger flipping, but there is more to it than fast food. Food handling requires you to take an easy test on food safety and handling, and most places will train you on the job. You have to be able to deal with shoot people and annoying customers, but there's so much you can learn. If you want, you can go through culinary school if you have the patience for it. Anyone who says that people in food business won't amount to anything are the kind of people who've never tried it and will always find something to complain about while they continue to go to restaurants because they're incapable of feeding themselves. Story 31. I'm currently a direct service professional or caregiver for special needs adults. The main paid training took 3 days in the office with continued paid training for the next 2 months in the office. Only downside I'd say is some of our clients can be difficult with a few having dementia. Other than that, the job is pretty great. Story 32. Police officer. Most big city police departments start off with at least $65,000, with tons of opportunities to make even more money after a few years and specialize with different training. You also typically get a pension and can retire relatively young. Story 33. Meat cutting, or butcher if you are okay with meat. Meat cutting is simple and repetitive once you get the muscle memory, for it. I did it for 3 years, 6 months as that, and 1 year as a regular meat cutter, which still paid well. And once I got promoted to a senior meat cutter, I made over 21 an hour. They'll start you as a meat wrapper or something similar, but take every opportunity to get on the block cutting and get practice because while simple, it is a skill. Story 34. EMT. Schooling is only a few months. I worked at a well-paying agency for about a decade and was netting $53K a year. For the minimal time and money spent getting into the field, I felt that was pretty good. I never worked overtime, but many did and made a lot more. Plus, we had amazing benefits. Most agencies pay shoot, though, and the schedule is fudge horrible. Some more schooling is required to become a paramedic, and then you obviously also make even more. My spouse was netting $75K as a medic, but had about 13 years in. Story 35. Sales. Sell cars. Sell copiers. Sell whatever. While you're learning how to sell that, think of and read about sales jobs that would be within commute distance for you, wherever you may be. That might be better. Decide if it's worth selling something else. You don't like talking to people? Bad news. There's a chance sales could be bad for you. You do like talking to people. Bad news. There's a chance sales could be bad for you. Get that shoot out of your head and remember that you are looking for a job that is well paying. Go sell some stuff. Story 36. You know, I don't actually know if this is true or not, but I come from Washington State, and in Washington, there are a lot of farms with cows and other farm animals, and as it goes, sometimes they die. If you've ever been, then you may have noticed that sometimes you'll see a dead cow laying on the side of the road. Another individual mentioned their job as cleanup for dead animals around the highways and such. Well, according to a dairy farmer I knew, these dead cows and whatnot are taken to pet food plants and processed into canned dog and cat food. Again, I don't know if this is true, and the dairy farmer was Dutch and a tipsy. So, yeah. Story 37. Electrician, plumber, welder, any factory maintenance position. Most companies will pay you to train, then hire you at full benefits. You will have to keep learning, but the companies pay you to attend classes. Good pay, good benefits, good retirement, good vacation. Bad shifts to start, but after some time, even this gets better. If you have a basic IT knowledge base, then unlimited potential for growth. CNC programmers and PLC programmers make real bank. Story 38. Blasting and painting. I manage safety and human resources for a contractor that works primarily in the Hampton Roads area. We pay folks a fair wage, depending on years of experience, but start painters around 18 to 22 per hour. That can increase quickly and also include a living wage if coming from out of town. Some of the folks that travel quickly clear six figures. Story 39. Most blue-collar jobs would fall into this category. For me personally, I went into non-destructive testing. School for the position took 1 week. The rest is on the job training and then a written and practical test to get certified. My job starts people out at $21.50 USD, fresh out of school. Story 40. My sister had a summer job assembling electronic circuit boards. I think she made $22 an hour or something like that, and did a one-day few hours course on how to put it together. She said it was boring, but you basically just repeat the same thing over and over for a few hours while listening to music or podcasts. Story 41. Any kind of job ending with the word technician. Some will teach you on the job. Others will require anywhere between just a few weeks to 2 years of schooling. It's a great way to gain experience in a particular field that you're trying to get your graduate degree in while making decent money. Story 42. Licensed insurance producer agent. This is the time of year to jump on the train, learn how the insurance system works, and get indoctrinated into it. Some have 4-week programs where you get paid to study and pass your exam. They pay for fingerprints, substances testing, license fees, etc. Then put you in training to sell the product. Gonna ride you hard during open enrollment and then throw you away after the first of the year. But pay is around $20 an hour. I suppose you could find a full-time position or one that has commissions where you could make bank too. Story 43. From what I'm seeing, picking and packing, but not for Amazon. I'm working at a place that ships Pokemon merchandise, and I started at $14.50, jumped to $18, and think we are now at $20. That's due to the peak season, but I'm socking it away all the same. Story 44. Railroad work. Most entry-level positions offer solid middle-class pay with top-tier benefits while only requiring a high school diploma. Any training is paid and is usually done in-house by the railroad. However, the work-life balance is awful, and the labor management relationship is downright hostile industry-wide. Story 45. Food Safety Inspector with the USDA. If you've ever worked with meat, you can get one of these jobs. Be willing to work nights and travel, and you'll get your foot in the door quickly. It's not a complete necessity, though. People who work in plants are eligible to apply as long as they can pass a background check. If you've worked as a butcher or in the meat department of a grocery store, you're eligible. If you've been in the military, you're eligible. Start as a food inspector. 5. After a year, you're a 7. After a year, you can apply to Consumer Safety Inspector 8 positions. They will train you in everything. They will pay for you to move to the location of the 8. It's actually one of the lower paid agencies in the federal government, though. A 7 will make around $40,000 a year, and it varies by locality. There are a ton of openings right now. usajobs.gov. Story 46. Water wastewater treatment. The workforce is aging out and retiring fast. Lots of opportunities for jobs and advancement. The job is typically simple. Walk around, look at things, take samples, push buttons, turn valves, do lab work, then wait for something to go wrong. Barriers to entry range vary by area. My plant, it's high school GED, and we used to hire straight from the prison. Continuing education and testing for a state license is a couple weeks paid time, or overtime, per year. Outstarting pay is 18-ish HR. I'm 3 years in, about to make closer to 25 HR. 18 is buy a house money here. Pension, significant vacation time, tuition reimbursement, typically with free time at work to study. Lots of small benefits that add up. Cross-training and upskilling to a number of other careers is available. Some of the guys who came through with me are now electricians, truck drivers, HVAC fixers, carpenters, industrial computer programmers, and a few ended up with cushy office jobs as inspectors or environmental bureaucrats. Story 47. Quite a lot of menial jobs out there that people just don't want to do that you can make a living out of. A mate of mine, in the UK by the way, worked in fast food and didn't have many qualifications, but he had a real passion for cars and took pride in detailing his. He started doing that for some friends, and long story short, he is now self-employed and does that for a living. Most of his clients have supercars and he charges accordingly. Story 48. Insurance field. Almost all of the jobs. Maybe not actuary, but that leaves lots of other options. Many of my employees had no more than a GED. Not even kidding. It requires little formal education. Most employers will train, and if you are at all trainable, you can rise through the income levels tremendously fast. Story 49. Sales, sales, sales. If you are polite, socially engaging, and have one of those, know a little bit about a lot of topics. Education. You can be relatable to just about anyone. As long as you just know your product, people will want to buy from you because you are likable. It can be grueling. You can run into some shoot people, shoot bosses, tough commission, only based pay, and have some rough stretches of minimal sales. But if you stick it out, your experience can find you in a job where the product sells itself. You just need to not be a jerk. My best bud has no college degree and brings in 6 figures. Story 50. Driving Uber or taxis in major cities. In NYC, you can make close to $500 a night with Uber and more with a cab. Only problem, they limit the amount of TLC plates and taxi medallions per year. I drove in the suburbs and would clear an easy $1,400 a week. Still thought NY is expensive to live, but it's good pay all things considered. Story 51. Youps driver. They started hiring people off the street, and you don't need a CDL. They just throw you in the truck and off you go. LMAO. After 4 years, you top out at $40 an hour with pension, great health benefits, and good vacation with basically unlimited overtime. The downside, you sell your soul to them and they tear apart your family with mandatory overtime and getting forced in on your days off. And your body is broken down by like 200 stops a day with a 150-pound weight limit on packages. But it pays the bills in a highly inflated world. Story 52. My stepdaughter is a nursing student. She got hired at a hospital to babysit mental patients. She started that job making $20 an hour. She's got a couple raises, unionized, and is making hazard pay now, meaning she now makes about $45 an hour. The hazard pay is due to short staffing. Apparently, she will be making hazard pay for the unforeseeable future. She's 21 years old as a full-time student and still working about 32 hours a week. She has to be careful, though, because all she does is school, work, study, and a little sleep. She lives at home and she just paid off her car. She has barely any bills and is stacking serious cash. Story 53. That best job in the world job. The one where you live on location at a beach resort, do nothing but hike around on trails, picking up the occasional plastic bottle, or helping tourists if they're lost. Swimming in a clear blue ocean, in case tourists need you for info about the resort. Kayaking. Yeah, don't know how to spell it, for the same reasons. Like basically it's what a person would do on a vacation, only you do it as a job. I also think you only work like 3 days a week. Also, since you live at the resort, you get to bring your family if you're chosen for the job. Oh, did I mention? However many slots there are for this job is very low, like single digits or possibly only one. I think it's actually 1 or 2. Anyway, you only get the job when for some odd reason one of the 2 working there now quits or retires. Then you have to go up against millions of people who want the job, but they narrow it down to like 11K really quickly because they're not going to hire me at 250 pounds, 5'10", and smokes to do that job. So far, nothing required other than if you enjoy doing these activities already and you're in good shape. The hard part is you have to learn to be alone during work while doing these activities because it's a high-class resort and not everyone gets to go there. In other words, it's no Six Flags with people bunched up like sardines. But when you do meet some tourists, because while it's no Six Flags, it is a vacation destination. In other words, it's the perfect blend. Here comes another hard part. You have to be friendly and happy. So in essence, you don't need anything but basic educational skills and the love for doing activities you would do if you were at a resort on vacation, and a helpful and happy person. I'm sure there's a lounge and bar too. Edit. Also, you don't live in the hotel. You live in a nice, well-equipped, good size, again, made for a family, up-to-date beach house that's just off the beach. Story 54. Operator at an oil refinery. High school diploma is all that's required. My work has a 3-year training program, which is basically you working the regular job for 3 years. They call them TRs. So you go from TR1, TR2, TR3 operator. Right now, TR1 pay is 34 and some change hour. TR2 is 39. TR3 is 42. And operator pay is 48. No one here makes under 100K a year. And while it's 12-hour rotating, day and night shifts, you only work 14 days a month. Although you will be called in on standby occasionally and have forced overtime occasionally as well. Oh, and you get an annual pay raise every year, usually between 2.5, 3.5. Story 55. Gigolo. Other than that, you're going to need to develop some sort of skill and hone it. Hell, even if you're a gigolo, you'll need to develop your skills if you want to keep a steady income. There are plenty of good jobs that don't require college or even a formal trade school. You're not going to get better than McDonald's with anything that doesn't require any kind of training at all. I guess if you inherit $1 billion, you can become a CEO with zero skill needed. But I doubt you were asking about that. Story 56. No one said it yet, so I will. Mechanic. I went to a trade school for less than a year. Before graduating, was recruited by a bus company for diesel work that I learned on the job. Pay started at 18 hours, and that was shoot compared to the 30 diesel mechanics were making at the non-city jobs. A starter toolbox and starter tools, not Snap-on, can be pieced together for about $1,000. Story 57. Lots of companies looking for truckers. Open road, fresh breeze in the air. Only need a CDL. Plus, there's a lot of good trucker unions to have your back if that's something you're interested in. Story 58. Phlebotomist. For me, it was a weekend course and got a job at a hospital that paid 25-hour, plus healthcare, pension, overtime. Also a really great transition job until you get into something like clinical laboratory scientists, registered nurse, or physician assistant. Story 59. Medical field. Insurance billing, medical assistant, biomed technician, trade school for repair of medical equipment, transcriptionist, often receptive to at-home workspace, phlebotomist, easy job, minimal training, and it's needed everywhere. Admissions desk, secretary, various techs from radiology to orthopedics. There are hundreds, nay, thousands of medical-related careers. Talk with a college career counselor or talk with a military recruiter and have all your training, practical experience, and an educational tuition reduction. Story 60. My husband works at a Toyota factory and brought in about 85,000 KD a year last year, his 7th year with them. He also gets a sick pension and our benefits are out of this world. He's been off since March because of a traumatic brain injury, though, but with partial pay because of those benefits. But the training was basically nothing, and his pay still grows yearly. That's as an assembly line worker. He could make more if he went for a team leader or a group leader or another part of the factory. High school diploma or GED was the only requirement. Downside, though, is the hours suck, and, at least here in Canada, they don't have a union, so they get away with a lot of shoot. And it's really, really hard on his body. Story 61. I'm a closer at a real estate law firm. My state requires that real estate closings be handled by an attorney, and I learned everything on the job. You have to get a foot in the door, of course, but I have no formal schooling for it. I'm not saying it's the best pay in the world, but I'm comfortable. Story 62. Programmer. You can follow a bunch of tutorials online, make a demo app or 3, then you're good to go. You can even do this after your workday for a few hours a day for a month. Median is $70K where I live, but it's better in the US. Pick up a junior Angular position at $35K for 1 year, then hop jobs every years for $15K every time. I've personally gone from $35K to $70K in 2 years by changing jobs. Contrary to popular beliefs, tons of programmers aren't knowledgeable in computers. Plus, you can always learn what you're missing online for free. Story 63. IBEW. High school diploma or GED is all that's required. Starting pay isn't fantastic, though still more than twice minimum wage, but you'll receive regular raises for 5 years while you complete the apprenticeship. Also, benefits kick in immediately, which means retirement, pension, vacation, and health dental vision insurance for you, your spouse, and all your children. Story 64. Aircraft mechanic. You start out working at a regional airline for a few years to get some experience and then move on to a major. I was making $85K at the regional with minimal overtime, and the majors you can be making $100K within 5 years straight time. OT at my workplace is plentiful, and I see guys pulling 1,000 to 2,000 hours of OT a year. 2 years of school for an AP certificate. Depends on what school, but it can be pretty cheap at some community colleges. Story 65. Okay, so IDK how these pan out in other states. They also aren't high paying, but I consider them much better than most jobs people get at 18, and I see them as great options for people wanting to get into medicine and make an okay living. But in military, pharmacy tech doesn't require school. Some big box stores train in-house for the state test, and it nets anywhere from 16 to 20 hours at the better-paying places like Meijer or hospitals. Hospital has benefits. Gotta rep my home field of M's. Traditionally underpaid, there's a huge shortage, meaning if you're smart, you can get a spot somewhere that pays pretty decent, but can easily end up somewhere sucky. EMT is like 8 WKs minus 1 semester and pays like 16 hours to start in my area, and the jobs available are numerous, with some gigs like security EMs paying 20 hours to do nothing. Paramedic is 12 to 24 months more after EMT, usually 16, and starts at 20 hours here. I'll hit 1 year as a medic in January, and I'm on track for 55-60K this year, working probably 45 hours work on average. Next year, I'm looking at an easy 70K, with guys cranking odd out making 6 figures easily. I've known homeless people to do our EMT program, work basically 2-4-7, which some days suck, but if you play it right means getting paid to sleep vibe at station, and live in station, which has everything they need. These jobs have benefits, and most companies in my region will literally pay you to take training as an EMT and work for them. EMT is a great way to find out if you want to be in healthcare in any role from Medicrap physician, and is great experience that can help move you in that direction while keeping bills paid. Contracts exist that pay crazy amounts like $600 to $800 a day to check temps at refugee checkpoints, but are not an everyday thing. Getting an LPN nursing license is pretty fast for the payoff, as is RN. Nursing, if you can stomach the work, is basically a direct ticket out of poverty into the middle class, where I am, with nursing starting at 30 HR and only shooting into the stratosphere from there, with some contracts or shift differentials paying like 50 to 100 HR. RN is an associate's entry, and I know people out of HS living in trailers. To use FAFSA or even a loan to do school just to come out swinging, pulling 80 to 100 leers their first year as a nurse. I'm sure plenty of tech trade jobs pay way better, but tech isn't for everyone and hard labor is hard. I work hard, but I do not work factory or trade hard, yet I make a good living. Story 66. Surgical technology. 2 years at a community college for a certification, and you're around in the 50K range. I was going for the certification myself before I found something I'm way more into. But yeah, if you have a strong stomach, it may not be a bad choice. Story 67. I deliver pizza and make $25-30 an hour overall. I drive an old car I paid $1,500 for. Runs great. Factor in 50 gas a week and the very low stress. A bit of downtime and really flexible schedule, and I'm very happy. Not hating your job is a huge plus. Worst part is, people often feel bad for me, thinking I'm stuck in this job and always looking for something better. But no, I'm happy. It's a great job, but the good money is a best-kept secret. Story 68. Lawn care, $40K to start, can be at $60K in a year if you can drive real estate agent. Some schooling and license. Licensed irrigator, 1 week class pass state exam, make $110 per hour. Home inspections, 8 WKs of class pass test, 4-800 per inspection. Oil rig, start out around 25. Pushing a broom and chipping paint, move up fast, can easily make 6 figures in a couple of years. Truck driver, short school license, make about $65K starting out. Story 69. The trades. That means contractors. There's a lot of different types. Insulation, drywall, plumbers, electricians, tile, roofers, carpenters, remodeling, concrete, earthwork and paving, fencing, flooring, glazing, HVAC, demolition, ornamental metal, lock and security, landscaping, masonry, painting, pipelines, lathe and plastering, refrigeration, elevator repair, auto repair, solar, swimming pool contractors, well drilling, welding. I know a guy who owns a drywall company. His people get over $100,000 per year. It's the same with most contracting. You do have an apprenticeship where you won't make as much money. The industry is absolutely going bonkers trying to hire people, so there should be minimal difficulty in finding a job. Make sure whatever company you choose has the health insurance and other benefits. Story 70. Depends on your nationality, unfortunately, but the merchant navy, specifically oil gas. A cadetship in the UK is paid. I literally left school with average grades and started a cadetship where I was being paid around $800 a month to literally study. The best thing is that all you really need is basic maths and writing skills, and you learn everything else at college and onboard ships. Once qualified, my starting salary as a 21-year-old was around $37,000 after tax. We generally don't pay tax. Of course, there are downsides. Time away from home, and I was lucky enough to start working with very good company from day one. The merchant navy isn't for everyone, but it offers an opportunity to get paid to learn, qualify with no debt, and enter into an industry with very clear and defined career paths. Opportunities. Story 71. Logistics clerk. Most have on-the-job training, only requires basic computer and communication skills. Depending on the company and location, you can make $45 to $65K per year, if not more. Also just happens to be a really interesting industry at the moment, with everything going on in the world. Story 72. If you are comfortable learning to drive one and being away from home for long stretches, trucking. There was a shortage before the pandemic, and that made it so much worse. Most companies will train you and help you get your license if you sign to work for them for 6 months. And then you can go wherever. Story 73. Welding, as far as I know, even if you only have 6 months of schooling, not really similar to school since it is like a special school for adults who has jobs, then just pass the certification. I think some certification is recognized overseas. For training part, I'm sure you can learn it as you go like an experience. Some of the companies just require the said certification. For pay, I can't remember that much, but what I heard, if you go European countries or to US, they pay really well. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. I live in Asia and had my high school to offer those vocational degrees, which according to the school pays a lot overseas. Story 74. Webcam modeling. I make anywhere from $70 to $200 an hour, and I just sit there talking to people on the computer. If you're attractive, charismatic, a good salesperson, and comfortable being naked on camera, it's the easiest and most high-paying job on the planet. Story 75. UPS. All you need is a clean driving record for the last year. Every day is overtime, time and a half. And during peak, you work 6 days a week as a newbie. It's also union, and you get pension. Yes, you pee in a few bottles a day. Yes, some boxes are heavy squat racks for home gyms or bed frames. Yes, there's no AC in the truck. Yes, the boxes are absolutely filthy, and if you don't wear gloves, your hands will be black by the end of the shift. But hey, I'm just here to answer the question. They pay to train you, and it's an extremely easy job. Just a lot of work for a lot of money after like 5 years. Story 76. You're going to trade schooling, training requirements for physical, undesirable types of work. This isn't me taking a shot at jobs that don't require higher degrees or training. This is just generally the rule when it comes to work that will pay. No such thing as a free lunch and all that.